but it is to be used for us as a checklist, as an individual spouse, how I conduct myself. And so also the Beatitudes, which I'm going to share with you today, by the way. I'm not going to talk on Matthew chapter 5 and those 8 Beatitudes, but this is something unique, something that I picked up from Don Bosco's Madonna to vouch for the Catholicity. It was of the month August 2001. I have that for my reference today as a structure. It's not to evaluate our spouse, but as a checklist for ourselves. And in the end, I will share with you what Pope Francis has to say in connection with Amoris Laetitia and so many other things that will come to us along the way. I had read about an evangelist who was traveling by an aircraft to another place when the air hostess came and asked his fellow passenger, "What will you have for meals?" And that man says, "Sorry, I don't want anything to eat. I am fasting today." And so our evangelist friend got interested in him. And so he found out why he was fasting, which church was he from, how long he has been fasting, and many, many other things. And he got a shock of his life when that co-passenger told him, "I'm fasting so that marriages might break. I'm fasting so that marriages might break." Needless to say, he must have belonged to the wrong church. Because when the marriage breaks, the family breaks. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. And that is why we are talking about the Christian marriage. The other day, Mervyn reminded me, para number 1601 of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, that tells us that the sacrament of matrimony has been raised to the dignity of a sacrament. And we know that sacrament makes us holy, the sacrament makes us whole, builds us up, and the sacrament helps us to glorify God. All this must happen in our marriages. The health of the family, brothers and sisters, affects the health of the world. And I have for you the words from John Paul II. It's right on your screen there. As family goes, so goes the nation. And so goes the whole world in which we live. I read another version of it in another devotional that goes like this: as goes the family, so goes society. As goes society, so goes the nation. As goes the nation, so goes the world. And as goes the world, so goes the civilization. And the statement that I'm making at the beginning, the health of the world depends on the health of the family. And while surfing the net, I found this other picture which is on your screen. The health of the marriage determines the health of the family. As strong as the family marriage is, so strong will be the family. Strong marriages build strong families, not only at the beginning stage, but even when the children come along and the family is on the rise. Now that is one. But the other thing that I learned from Pope John Paul II in another place, the spiritual health of the family determines the holiness of the church. That's a conclusion. And so he says, "Give me holy Catholic families, and I will give you a holy Catholic church." The health of our families determines the health of the church, the holiness of the church. You must have heard and you must have taught from Lumen Gentium, para 11, that says, the family is the domestic church. What happens at the church on the corporate level must happen in our families, which is the domestic church. Again, the Catechism of the Catholic Church is teaching us this. And I like to combine it with what Evangelii Nunciandi says in para 14. The church exists to evangelize. And if I may take the reason, cause, for, I can say the family is the domestic church, and the church exists to evangelize. Therefore, our families exist to evangelize, and therefore, not only what we say, but how we live our lives is so important. And one of the most obvious thing which is known to the people about our family is the way we conduct ourselves. What are we known for? Such a lofty, such a big topic, such a noble topic this is. But what is the answer comes from the words of Pope Francis. I was very happy that Lynn kind of made me think in this regard that along with John Paul II, let us talk about Pope Francis. And he says, the please, the thank you and sorry are words that open up the road to a good family life. We could have referred to all the documents of the church. So many other things are written. Might complicate, because sometimes reading becomes difficult and memorizing sometimes becomes even more difficult as the years roll by. And so these kind of secrets that are given by the Holy Father are important. The please, the thank you, the sorry, the words that open up the road to a good family life. Cricket is in vogue these days. Many are getting ready to watch the final. And when they talk, the expert commentators talk, they come back to one statement: do the basics right. We are coming back to the basics today, coming back to this matter of fact, everyday living that is before us. And so the topic for this evening, as already flashed earlier, announced earlier, but there is an additional word that I've written: Beatitudes for married couples. Why do I say married couples? Some time back I had heard that in a place, in a country where there are about 200 families, there was one particular family who could rise up, who got up and said, we are the only married couple over here. What was he not saying? That the others are not married, but they are together. And so we are talking to the sacramentally married couples. Beatitudes for married couples. Like I said, we could have picked up documents and other places where we are taught about this, and we should make the time to study that, take the interest. Now we don't have to actually get physical documents. Google is our helper. And my son who lives here incidentally happens to be working for Google. Everything we want to learn, Google is able to teach us. And so what I picked up for you, which is ancient wisdom as it were, 2001. What are these beatitudes that are there before us? The first beatitude is, blessed are the husband and wife who continue to be affectionate, considerate and loving long after the wedding bells have ceased ringing. When love is new, there's a different kind of excitement. There is that closeness, there is that bond. But over the years, it somehow takes a toll. And this should not happen in our marriages. And see, what is this author saying? Where else, if not in marriage, you can see examples of pure affection, true love, deep trust, ongoing support, mutual satisfaction, shared griefs and sighs and tears shed together. Where else can we find this? It's only within the sacrament of matrimony. Everybody else will be far away. Then we look for one another, husband and wife. And this is the secret of having a successful, an exemplary marriage. Are the husband and wife who continue to be affectionate, considerate, loving, long after the wedding bells have ceased ringing. I remember seeing a picture. When I'm 80, I want to hold your hand and say, I'm happy I chose to get married to you. The relationship, the love has to be kept fresh, has to be kept new for this. And so there's somebody who said a successful marriage requires falling in love many times, but with the same person. That statement says it all. That statement says it all. Marriage, brothers and sisters, you'll agree with me, especially the ones who are ahead of us at this age, becomes stale if we make sex the only criteria, or any particular activity, finance, money, business. And that's why the word love has been explained so beautifully. The 4 types of love in the Greek words that I use, storge, all very clear for us, describing family love, naturally developing affectionate between parents, children. Storge. Philia, the emotional love, which is also important, brotherly love, love for humanity. There is that eros, that erotic love, sensual, romantic. But what we are talking about in marriage is the love that Paul talks about in Ephesians 5. The highest form of the 4 types of love as is the divine love that comes from God himself, the sacrificial love. We know John 3:16, God loved the world so much that it didn't remain words. He gave, and he gave what was most dear to him, his only begotten Son. And love must rise. This is the level of love that should be in our marriages. Wives are told to submit to their husbands, but husbands are told to love their wives. And I would go on to say that love involves submission also. We'll see later on how that shapes up. The miracle of interdependence in love. That is what is seen. Whenever I stand to propose the toast, I will say, today is a very sad day. Why? Because the couple today have lost their independence. But I say it's a very happy day because the miracle of interdependence has come in. They have exchanged their independence for interdependence, which is a miracle. 2 people created for each other years ago have met finally. That is the miracle by itself. A man was celebrating his 60 years of marriage, and his friends who were living at that time attended the reception, and they heard him say to his wife, honey, sweetheart, darling, sugar. And he said, Array, your romance is still young, yeah? He said, keep quiet. I have forgotten her name, so I'm addressing her by all these names. I know that is the minimum, that we will take care, we will be particular, we will be loving towards our spouses. And that is the first of those Beatitudes. Husband and wife who continue to be affectionate and considerate long after the wedding bells have stopped ringing. The second Beatitude I saw over there in that Don Bosco magazine of August 2001 is, blessed are the husband and wife who are as polite and courteous to one another as they are to their friends. Very often we tend to become like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We are one type of person with one group and another type of person with, in this case, our spouses. there is something wrong over there. Can we be as polite, or are we taking our spouse for granted? Or has the newness worn off? When the newness wears off, they say, the novelty is gone. Should not be the case. That marriage, that love must be kept fresh. And I think Mervyn said it in the beginning. There is that sin that's playing in our life, that selfishness, that sometimes takes a toll of our love for each other. Someone said very nicely, before marriage it is 14th February, Valentine's Day. And I won't say coincidentally, but providentially today is the 14th of November. After marriage it is 14th of November, Children's Day. Valentine's Day, Lovers' Day is forgotten, Children's Day have come. And so the words, as Pope Francis said earlier, the basics, sorry, please, thank you. Not to take anything for granted, oh, you have to do it. No. It is, someone said, it is better to say thank you and not mean it, rather than mean it and not say it. And you will agree with me when I say it should be both said and it should be meant. And that will keep the marriage, that will keep the life of the couple active, current, not something that's dead or past, gone by. There are totally 11 Beatitudes, and so we will see how much we can talk about each of those Beatitudes. Blessed are they who have a sense of humor, for this attribute will be a handy shock absorber. The difficulties, the tensions, the trauma, the hardships, the problems that we go within the marriage life, in our offices, with our children, their future, their behavior, sometimes in-laws, there are so many tensions, job tensions, insecurity, rejection at office places, neighbors affecting us. And so what is required is there is a pressure that's building up like a pressure cooker. And at one time, if that pressure is not released, that cooker can burst and danger. And so, as is said in this image, a good sense of humor. Mark the word, good sense of humor is an escape valve for the pressures of life. That's why the pressure, the humor, very, very important, because it's like a release of the tension. Mind well, the other quote say, no sarcasm, no taunting intended, no getting even with your spouse or the spouse's family or whatever habits. No sarcasm, no taunting intended. In fact, it must be used to diffuse the tensions. And so humor, although secular as it sounds, is important in our marriage life. So that we can laugh together, so that we can smile together. Sometimes the joke is said and done, and sometimes later we are laughing to ourselves because we enjoyed that joke. And that is contagious. That is contagious, and it helps to lighten our life. Blessed are they who love their mates more than any other person in the world. Needless to say. But sometimes some things need to be repeated, needs to be brought to our mind once again, and will joyfully fulfill their marriage vows of lifetime of fidelity and mutual helpfulness to each other. There was one article I was reading in this devotional called Our Daily Bread. The greener side of life, as they say, this grass is greener, avoiding the greener grass, the green grass on the other side. Many years ago, as I was passing Chani Road station, on that bridge, there was a hoarding. It was a TV advertisement. TVs were relatively new. And everybody was searching for the best TV, the excellent TV. And so that ad said, showing their product, Your search for excellence ends here. And that should be our attitude, our search for excellence, for the right partner. That's why they say it is not so much about finding the right partner as much as it is about being the right partner. In Copenhagen, there is this custom. Newly married couple enter by a particular door, and that door is then locked. And that door is not opened again until one of the spouses die. It is permanency. It is for life, for whole life. The vows that we take. Again, I'm using a play on word. The vows that we take must be lived to get wows. WOWS. I have, for example, a friend whose sister-in-law had a husband who had contracted psoriasis. It was so difficult to live with him. The daughter was sent to boarding because the skin was falling off and it was, kind of giving a bad odor. And she would carry that husband in that condition, take him to the bathroom, take him for bath. And she almost went out of her head. A lifetime of dedication. A lifetime of dedication. She was living the vow, good times and bad times. Another friend's mother took care of her husband, although he was such a strong man, heavy man, she would do the same chores for him, stuck by him. My mother did it for my father, who was bedridden for 7 years with paralysis. Another friend of mine, his wife fell off from that lift shaft. They were constructing the building and she fell through. The lift was not yet installed. And down she came 7 or 8 floors. She was still living. And his boy said, even if I have to take care of her as a vegetable, I pray that she lives. Of course, she didn't. This is what it talks about. A lifetime. Blessed are they who love their mates, joyfully fulfill their marriage vows of a lifetime and mutual helplessness. We pass on to the next beatitude. Blessed are they who attain parenthood. For children are a heritage. Mervyn is talking on the subject. I noticed children are a heritage. I remember my elder son when he was still young. Young means still school going or still younger. He would say, I don't want to get married because all that children keep it, I don't want. Today he is happily married with taking care of children, and that stage has passed, but he is taking care. One of the questions before taking the marriage vows, will you accept children lovingly from God and bring them up according to the law of Christ and His church? We need to remind ourselves, children are a heritage. We have got those children on loan and we'll have to give an account of them. In the Bible, Eli was a failure because his children went astray. Job was a success because he offered sacrifices for his children. He was a man whom God had picked up. Have you seen anybody like Job? There is nobody who is telling the devil. He is blameless, he is upright, he fears me, and he shuns evil. Even this righteous man is saying, when my children gather together for their gathering, perhaps they have sinned in their unconsciousness, he would offer sacrifices. Children are God's benefit to us. I know of a boy who said, oh, I don't want to have children because I can't trust my wife with children. She can't take care of children. Sad comments. Thankfully, the whole thing changed afterwards. Blessed are they who remember to thank thank God. One of the few directly spiritual points. Others are secular spiritual also, but spiritual. Who remember to thank God for their food before they partake it. And who set apart some time each day for reading the Bible and for prayer. We are Christians, we are Catholics, we are, shall I say, most of us, or all of us are also charismatics by virtue of our baptism. And so it is our Christian duty to thank God for our existence, for the provisions that we receive. So many have not got. So many do not have their own house till today. Some of us are blessed with houses. Do we take these blessings for granted as a couple? And we know the struggle we went through as we made our own house, coming from a joint family. How much we had to struggle, and we know along in our life, all along, it was God who was with us. He was with us faithfully. And so we can live in that happiness, thanking God first for all the provisions that He has made for us. Thanking God for the food which we are taking for granted, and also a time of reading. As I think it was either Lynn or Pressy said, the family that prays together stays together. So true, it has come down, stays together. There is this small diagram which I want to bring before you. It was a revelation for me some years ago. And this is how the family is. The two base angles are the husband and wife. And of course, the only person who can get involved in our marriage is God. And so the triangle over there, where are the children? They are in that blank space in between. Now, as you see, what is moving over there is that as husband realizes his calling to pray, calling to live a life of repentance, living his call to holiness, he starts praying. And as he starts praying, he moves up on that side angle, on that side closer towards God. The wife on her side also, she also prays. I know of women who never prayed before, but after seeing their husbands dedicated to prayer, they have started praying. And there have been instances where the husband was not praying, but looking at the wife praying, he has started praying. And so each one is dedicating themselves in prayer, reading the word and so on. And so they are coming closer to God. And the miracle is, as they are coming close to God, they are coming close to each other. The only way to come close to each other, first and primarily and definitely, is both must be in prayer. And as they come close to God, and as they come close to each other, the children who must have been at a distance, they also come closer to the family father. A family is developing, a loving family is developing. And as they pray further they are coming closer to God, and they are coming closer to each other. Until we can say, we two are one, we two are truly one. And that's the beauty of the whole couple relationship. Of course, and I will quote Pope Francis afterwards to make that point a little further. And so we go to the next commandment. What is the next commandment? Blessed are those who never speak to one another, loudly to one another, and make their home a place. I remember from my school singing those, "Oh, give me a home where the buffaloes roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word. You are like your husband, you are like your father, you are like your brother, you are like your mother, you are like your sister." All these kinds of things are going on sometime in families. And there's so much of bad blood flowing over there. The home becomes a hell. There is so much of calling names, etc. And so we heard this famous one that the first year marriage, the man is speaking. He is the boss, he's speaking. And the wife listens. And in the second year, the wife starts talking. And I wonder if it is only the second year or from there onwards, and the man has to listen. But in this saying, the third one is, in the third year, both are talking. And who's listening? The neighbor is listening. Dirty linen is being washed. The fights, the scandals. And it is far from what the church was made for, to be evangelistic. Fights and fights upon fights going on. It is in this time that doubting takes place. And doubting causes to talk unbecomingly. And when I was in Mira Road parish, the ex-parish priest shared with us a joke which I might share with you. There's no cause for doubting, but the doubts creep up. So the husband comes home one day with a hair on his shirt, and the wife accuses him, "You're having an affair." So the next day the guy, convinces her, but she wouldn't listen. Next day he takes all the care and caution, and he comes home, and lo and behold, the wife finds a grey hair. So now you're having an affair with an elderly woman. And that chap was fed up and so useless clarifying. The third day, he does not take the public transport. He comes home by taxi. There was no hair. See, now you're having an affair with a bald woman. And so there is no end to that. And this gives rise to mudslinging, name-calling, fights, arguments. Brothers and sisters, we belong to God. Trust God to handle all your problems in this area. Trust God to handle all our problems in this area. Seek His help. Next beatitude is, blessed are the husband and wife who faithfully attend church and who work together in church for the advancement of Christ's kingdom. And I'm so happy. Of late, I have seen and I have been involved in this area. There were many years when I was far away from church. And life was just, Catholicity was just restricted to Saturday confessions and Sunday communion. Nothing else. The only time I was in the church compound was to play over there. That's all. But now life has got a meaning. And this gives meaning to our life as a family, as a couple. We involve ourselves. If there is a project to be done, if there is an article to be written, if there is a video recording to be done, my wife will be involved, my son will be involved. And it's such a beautiful thing. And that's what this beatitude, blessed are the husband and wife who faithfully attend church services and who work together in the church for the advancement of Christ's kingdom. There is what unity, what oneness that is there in our lives. When I was thinking about this subject, man's role. Husbands, love your wives. And what is the man saying? Man is saying, I will do everything else. I will read the newspaper, I'll bring the money. But church matters, you handle. All these matters, all church-related matters. The man must realize that if the family is a domestic church, he is, along with being a provider, every man should be. He is a protector. When somebody bangs at the door in the middle of the night, who goes to answer the door? As a protector, the father goes. The case of fatherless children or whose husband is not there is pathetic and was very pathetic in the days gone by. So the man is a husband and a father. So he's a provider, he's a protector, but importantly, he's a priest. Look at what happened in Job's life. He was playing the role of a priest. Head of the family is also, he is the priest of the family. Leading prayer, etc., etc. Blessed are the husband and wife who can work out problems of adjustments and interference without interference from relatives. I've not written in-laws over there. Should be able to work things amongst ourselves. I realized how important it was in the early years of marriage. It was not enough between the two of us. We required the involvement of my mother, with whom we were staying for many years. And we could use their wisdom and experience. But there is an extent we go through. There has to come a time when we can handle affairs on our own. Yes, the role of independence, the role of interdependence comes over there. Many people say Adam and Eve had no problem in their marriage because they had no in-laws. But life can be beautiful even with in-laws. Perhaps if we have the right balance in marriage, we have to refer to them, we have to support them. That's what the extension of the fourth commandment is. Naomi respected Ruth, her mother-in-law. Blessed is the couple who has complete understanding. We were telling one of our relatives, hey, you got a nice dress. Oh, that dress I bought with my money. And I was wondering, after marriage, what is my money and what is your money? It is our money. It is the husband and wife who are interdependent now. Who have to manage all the affairs. And what is my money is your money. What is your money is my money. Partnership, complete knowledge. We have the complete knowledge of the finance. There are no secrets. Everything there is financial. There is financial openness over there. Transparency. The technical word is supporting parents. There are some spouses who support their parents secretly because there is objection from the spouses. And why should it be? The fourth commandment, when it says, honor your father and mother, it is not only for small children, it is also for big children, like grown up and whose parents are still around. Support them. 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8 says, if you do not provide for your family and your immediate family, you are an infidel, you are an unbeliever. You rejected your faith. And so with consent, I think it should be done willingly, supporting our parents. There was a story told about a lady who was 89 years old and was in a home for the aged. She said, my son is a pastor, wonderful pastor, reaches people all over the world. But to me, his mother, he doesn't have an hour a week to visit in the home for the aged in the same city. So wife is not told about the husband's income. Maybe because he is feeding his vices with that extra money. He doesn't want his wife's wrong demands to be fulfilled. But in a marriage, everything has been to be done with understanding. And I think this is the final beatitude, the 11th one. Blessed are the husband and wife who humbly dedicate their lives and their homes to Christ and who practice teaching of Christ by being unselfish, loyal and loving. All this is covered as we were coming along in this teaching. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. And I think that saying that coming on the basis of Ephesians 5:21, our marriage as mutual submission. It is not husbands love your wives and he takes the narrow meaning of love and gets away, or and takes the advantage of his wife because she is told to submit. There is a mutual submission. Out of love, submit to one another. Now, if we were to get all these 11 Beatitudes, 10 out of 10, we would all be wonderful marriages. But there are things going wrong. And thankfully, they are not being exposed. And I have a word of comfort for myself and for all of us. There are two sayings I have taken from Pope Francis, this joy of love. No family drops down from heaven. If we have not been successful, if we have got only 1 out of 11, don't worry. That is the whole purpose of this letter, of this document, the joy of love. No family drops from heaven perfectly. Families need constantly to grow and mature in the ability to love. Pope Francis writes, people grow in holiness, and the church must be there to give them a helping hand rather than turn them away because they have not attained some degree of perfection. And the next one says, the perfect family doesn't exist. It is imaginary. It is not, it does not exist. Nor is there a perfect husband, if you're looking for one, nor is there a perfect wife, he says. Let's not talk about the perfect. When Jesus says, you must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. But perfection, as I say, of holiness is not a destination. It is a journey. We are all moving towards that perfection. No perfect mother-in-law. It is just us sinners. If we learn to say we are sorry and ask forgiveness, the marriage will last. And so in conclusion, brothers and sisters, these comments that I want to make, good marriages have a balance. They have a balance. Good communication is essential for a happy marriage. And what communication? Listen to this four-liner. If you want your marriage to sizzle with love as in a loving cup, when you are wrong, admit it. When you are right, shut up. It is the silence that will convey the love, not condemning one another. A good marriage requires the determination to be married for good, for better or for worse. Success in marriage is not finding the right person, but becoming the right person. And finally, taking up from Pope Francis's words that I just read a little earlier, a happy marriage is a union of two good forgivers. I don't have to go very far. I only have to look at my own life, at the miracle of forgiveness. Brothers and sisters, if all else is difficult to remember, just remember this last line. A happy marriage is a union of two good forgivers. May Saint Joseph, the patron of families, the patron of fathers, the patron of the universal church, the patron of the domestic church, the patron of workers, and along with Mary, we pray for their intercession, that we may grow in holiness as a family. As we sign ourselves all together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.